Maybach music.
Still by Chevy DB.
Gang hitty in this motherfucker.
I put one up in the top. That I be gone, breaking bitches, basic bitches. That's the shit that I be on. Burning money till the fire truck pull up, turn on the hose. 100 times in your house and now it's just to set the tone. I put one up in the top. That I be gone, breaking bitches, basic bitches. That's the shit that I be on. Burning money till the fire truck pull up, turn on the hose. 100 times in your house and now it's just to set the tone. If it's up, it's stuck and never finna touch the fucking floor. It's Dolly Yang in the air everywhere I fucking go. My kitchen flooded with some shit to send me up the fucking road. That double M, another level, but I bet them bitches know. I need that white like politicians and no white like El Chapo. My Cartier, I hardly wear my presidential rally go. I sell her all like Okido and some old Jordan OBO. I'm breaking bitches, basic business, but just hope it don't be yo. Group up with a square grouper, you just don't be sure. A 40 and a spare Ruger, don't be thinking stupid thoughts. Cause my little homies, they'll shoot you if you moving like that. They been up blue somebody top and walk off food like la-di-da. I put one up in the top. Then I be gone, breaking bitches, basic bitches. That's the shit that I be on. Burning money till the fire truck pull up, turn on the hose. 100 times in your house and now it's just to set the tone. I put one up in the top. Then I be gone, breaking bitches, basic bitches. That's the shit that I be on. Burning money till the fire truck pull up, turn on the hose. 100 times in your house and now it's just to set the tone. Just a joke, I stroke a brick and make a scene. Whoop a baby with the lashes like the shit with Maybelline. The chances in the trenches, my intentions was to flee. And ain't no rubber when I fuck her every time she mention me. Cash at my retainer to my lawyer when it's deep. Dog food up in the fall, sitting sour on the seat. I put the Pyrex in the pot and watch it lock up like a thief. These niggas waving white flags, I still pop up with the peace. I'm just a trap nigga taking pictures like I really rap. No pretender, took a blender, made it spin until it cracked. I got the pressure off the dresser, time to press him like a button. I see dudes and getting coming through them hoes like Philip Drummond. I put one up in the top. Then I be gone, breaking bitches, basic bitches. That's the shit that I be on. Burning money till the fire truck pull up, turn on the hose. 100 times in your house and now it's just to set the tone. I put one up in the top. Then I be gone, breaking bitches, basic bitches. That's the shit that I be on. Burning money till the fire truck pull up, turn on the hose. 100 times in your house and now it's just to set the tone.
Motherfucker. Hey, what's up, friend? Hey, how you doing?
Bitch.
Remember me? I'd have to lose all the brain cells in my head before I could get something responsive. Does everyone need an audition to get to you? We ain't gotta go through all that shit. Then I'll choose you.
No business like whole business. You know what I'm saying?
Be cool, baby.
I was just telling my man that shit every week too, man. Straight up. Check me out. I fuck with bitch. Check me out with some motherfucking blessings. Rep the click to the weapon click. Check up a brick and hit the script with the best shit. 8-hour shifts. Out of town power trips, politics, niggas throwing hollow tips. I'm from the bottom, bitch. Keep it shoddy like a bottom bitch. I'm all about a dollar, might find me out with my collar flip. Kiss the money like a sweet lover. 10 seats in the Beamer, peanut butter. Team is gutter, my skin got the green color. Queen between the covers, weed and Henny, never tea and crumpets. In the ear of a slut, I whisper sweet nothings. Sip white Russians, control bitches like puppets. Mink scarf, Jamaican Kango. Do the tango on the yayo like Puff and J-Lo. Take that. Range roll, not the Laredo. I'm back, bitch, long 38 with the potato. Play it low, tiptoe with the bro like Apocalypto. But all that popping at the lip don't make your dick grow. Keep it humble, flip the dope by the bundle. Blow the smoke out of the sunroof, it's real. Gave us his tail, get off my dog said to the tick. But I ain't even trip. Niggas bid ain't even leave a tip, but it's a gift. So I never once felt the need to mention it. Don't even mention it, my nigga, it's nothing. Sweet nothing. It's nothing. Sweet nothing. It's nothing. Sweet nothings. Hempstead. Sweet nothings. 100 block. I earn my status at the base. Bagging bass is just a matter of taste. My roots in the ghetto was chained, I escaped. Got a couple wounds, howled at the moon. Pulled to 211, then hopped up in the 7. Niggas got it twisted, this is chestnut checkers. Visions of wealth through the eyes of prophets. Or my whole stand pocket, red bone and chocolate. Dropping money on the countertop, I'm thinking out the box. I sound like the cow pox. With the fox, 10 power squats, pull the dreadlocks, pull a sour out the medicine crop. Connected dots, the leopard has spots. I rest with the heckling cops, stir the pots. Purple tops, cops circle the block. Black weapons, not the ones bird rock. Still with the jokes, money off the books, first shots. Murder plots, word to my pops. Nigga, snuff, sweet nothings. Sweet nothings. Snuffing, sweet nothings.
It's one thing that I've learned how to do, and learn to, love how to do is, improvise. Nothing in life, goes exactly the way you want it to go. I would say 85% of the time. Just like I said in the art of negotiation piece about power, information, and time. When you're grounded in that, reality will actually tell your side of the story. And essentially that will change the narrative. That has to do with pretty much anything. I mean, you look at Kanye West, prime example of that. People were looking at, he lost this much money. He lost this much money under an umbrella that was basically, breaking him out of like billions. He should have actually had a lot more money. But, he didn't know how to negotiate beforehand. He didn't know how to change the narrative beforehand. And that's, essentially what happened. So he made those statements for a reason. It's kind of like a backroom conversation that he had publicly with you to basically show you the industry. The people that didn't, act, kindly or respectfully in his favor, that basically, let you know. He lets you know the industry. So it's really like a double entendre. He lets you know the industry. And he also lets you know who you really are and lets you know who your opposition really is. They've always, controlled the narrative. They've always controlled your narrative. It's interesting when you interact with them and you kind of get I've interacted with them, and just, their ignorance is pretty interesting. I mean, they're, good with numbers, which they stole from you, because originally you're supposed to be the one with the math. They stole your numbers. They stole your signs. They stole from you. They were just good at stealing. Good at tricking you out of your position and then tell you who you are. That's crazy, right? They take your identity. That's why it's ish. Whether they're the ish, it's kind of like it, but it's not like it. It's like it, and maybe it's form. They have the form, of the chosen one, but they don't have the power. What they have is the grace and mercy, and your ignorance. Really, their grace and mercy has run out. It's really your ignorance that hasn't. Those that actually stood against you know, Kanye. It just revealed your ignorance. Because a lot of people were looking at, oh, he lost 400, or he lost, what, $600 million? Oh, okay. But he's making his own car. He's building his own city. In the meantime, in between time, he's bought cattle. Then look at this other part. You know, he was able to go through the transformation because guess who made him? Kim Alexis. Just like he made Kim Kardashian. And just like who, what's the guy's name? That basically runs Tesla. He's basically creating him. That's how he's basically, you know, he's creating his own car. Big business is done right in front of you. You know, but you sleep on a man's intelligence. It's like the meeting, you know, at the president's office. If you basically understood the esoteric meaning behind it, you know, he had on a red tie, he had on a red hat. So let's make America great again. And so we're playing, you know, fourth dimensional chess right in front of you. You don't even realize it. You think it's black and white. It's not black and white. It's about class. And what he stood on, you know, mind you, he has a Black Panther upbringing, tutelage. You're not going to sway from that, you know. You train a child, you know, in the beginning in a certain way, he won't depart from that way. He might separate from that way, but he won't depart from it. He'll have a moment where he wants to figure it out for himself, and he realizes, you know, the answers are already there. He's going to go back to it. So what you're basically seeing is Kanye coming back to, you know, his true self. You know, they put the narrative out there that he's crazy. They put the narrative out there that, you know, all the things. He's not good at articulating himself or his points at times, but his points are very necessary, you know, and accurate if you really look at it. He said, I'm not perfect, but my music is. You know, you didn't have Beethoven back then. You got me now. You know, that's what he's basically saying. Changing the narrative. You know, it's kind of like the audacity, like Obama had the audacity of hope. You know, his is like the audacity, you know, to be called by your name and to be treated according to your name. The audacity of that. When they asked him, you know, who he is, and he said he's a god, and they were like, what? Like, who do you think you are? And he said, I just told you. You know, you have to live with the, you know, the world on top of you, or you on top of the world. You know, it's either you're getting in, you know, in front of the narrative, or the narrative is pretty much, you know, in front of you, dragging you. You know, you have to understand the importance of things, and the whole idea of why you need to change the narrative. Because if you don't have your narrative, somebody's going to have their narrative for you. You know, and part of that, you know, is being in control of what your own time. That's one thing that everybody, you know, undervalues and underestimates. You know, you work smart to buy time. So people think you get to the, you know, the top of the ladder through working hard. No, you get to the top of the ladder working smart. And you get to the ladder, the top of the ladder, by knowing what you're working for. That's to get your time back. That's the most precious asset, is your own time. Most people don't own their own time. They own somebody else's time. You know, they had to be somebody else to be there instead of just being on your own time. can't be yourself and be on somebody else's time at the same time. It just doesn't work. That's what he's doing. He's freeing himself up from those contracts. He's freeing himself up from those situations. He made those remarks. You know the consequences to that. He did that to get out of contract because guess what? He basically created his own shoe. He changed, you know, the entire fashion industry as well as music. So he basically is in a position. He knows he's in a position to basically, you know, generate 5 times more than what he did before. You know, doesn't want to be a slave anymore. You know, the slave is going to look at it one way. The free man's going to look at it another way. Changing the narrative. It's about you getting in front of things, you getting in front of your life, and you keeping people in front of you. My apologies, I was thinking of 2 different things at once. Now that happens. He changed the narrative. The only thing he did wrong was marry that woman. Although she's produced more, you know, with his life than probably the other women could. So in one aspect, yeah, you kind of have to look at the glass in a certain way. It ruined him because it was bad for him. Maybe not bad for business per se. I could change that. Not bad for business, but it was bad for him. For some odd reason, because that could be just a point of reference. So yeah, that I could give it that, because, you know, whenever he was talking about her, you know, it was a point of reference, is what, you know, it was what he's seen, right? In his mind, he had the best and the brightest, the baddest of the baddest. It was his point of reference. He got blinded, you know, by that false light. Essentially what, you know, a lot of you guys do, you go after the false light and get blinded by it, you know, fall into a darker place. You know, that's his only, I would say, mistake. You know, he said what, you know, you've always wanted to say as a black man in America. Just like, you know, Donald Trump said, we said, make America great again. He said, hey, yeah, boy. Yeah, boy. Yeah, you always wanted to say that, just like you always wanted to basically tell that guy, like, look, man, like, I don't speak to people poorer than me. And left the gap situation just like that. You know? See, what he was living as a false free man. He wants to really be a free man. And that's going to come with a cost. You know? Whenever we get free, you know, they take us out. You think about it. I mean, I'm talking about don't even get a chance to breathe from a moment. Michael Jackson was free. You know, he had the Beatles master. You know, they took him out. They take out all your heroes. But, you know, in the meantime and in between time, you want to basically talk about all the flaws of the man. Okay, we know this, all right? We know these certain things, right? We know he's got these mental issues, right? We said he was bipolar, which, you know, I believe it's a bunch of crock, right? He just did some things that cause a cognitive dissonance, and we're not going to get too far into that. You know, with great power comes great corruption. So, you know, you get into a certain industry, you're going to do some, you know, some strange things for some change. And maybe, you know, he's not able to, you know, process what he did properly, you know, blinded by that light, that false light. But other than that, as far as his ability to change the narrative, he did, if you're really paying attention. You know, you can't look at what the media is basically saying about him. You got to look at, you know, what he's actually doing. You know, that's the fake news. You know, when you basically, you know, fall into that dupe. You know, I believe he's a genius, but you know, the difference between, you know, a genius, someone that's insane versus someone that's a genius is a bag of money at the end of the day. You know, that's the only difference between a genius and someone insane. It's a bag of money. Because you need those as milestones. It's not, even if it's not anything to you, but you understand you need those there. You know, it's your report card. Essentially, that's what money really should be to you. It's just your report card. You know, trinkets are fine, but your report card is much better. You know, it's basically saying I don't need you. Have enough that I don't need you. You know, that's what he basically did. He got out of contract. He made those statements, revealed to people in the industry, as well as basically said, I don't need you anymore. I got this from here. You know, that's changing the narrative. You know, changing the narrative always. You know, you make your own life. You know, it's either you make your own life or somebody's gonna make their, you know, make your life for you. You know, so before it's either you're the master of, you know, communication or you're subservient to it. You know, everything is a power play. Everything is a power dynamic between, you know, people. You know, period. You know, he got tired of feeling like a prostitute. You know, wanted to be a master. That's the part that I think people really aren't really getting. Donald Trump said whatever he wanted to say, regardless how you felt about it. You lose some money, but you're going to gain some more. You're going to gain some more notoriety. Same thing Kanye did. Okay. Because he didn't say anything that was, you know, anti, you know, Semitic. He told the truth. And that's the thing. When you tell the truth, people are going to hate you for it. You stand on truth, people are going to hate you for it. Because, you know, the truth isn't something that's convoluted. It's not a conundrum of things. You know, people are basically in an information, you know, conundrum. They're not in the truth. So when you're in the truth, you could speak your truth. You could tell like it is. You know, you can afford to do that. That's the other thing. He can afford to basically say exactly what he wanted to say. You know, his tutelage was raising him up. You know, it's kind of like the theory I told you about the Pepsi being jammed in the soda machine. You gotta like hit it a couple times, and you know, eventually that soda will drop. You know, that's what happens when you're basically taught a certain way. You know, a lot of people out here are pretty much amoral. You know, and they're confused and they're scared. See, but if you had a certain tutelage, if you were brought up in a certain way, you're going to come back to that way. That way is going to raise you up. That's what's changing the narrative. His way that he was brought up is changing the narrative. He's like, okay, I would normally do this, but I got to do this now. It's a calling. Your calling is basically to go back into the way that you were taught. That's the part that you know, I think people aren't really even aware of. You know, He's changing the narrative. The more aware you become of yourself and of your plight and of your people's plight and of their conditions and of the world at whole, right? Then that's when that way comes up in you and changes the narrative. Goofy. You change the narrative in plenty of times. You changed it in business. You changed it in music. You changed it in relationships. You know, regardless of what you think of her, regardless of what I think of her. You know, just got caught up in his handler. That's it. You know, it's not a puppet for everybody else, but he's a puppet for her. You know, and her family and the industry is basically treating that like a you know, a fishing pole, you know, with the carrot at the end. You know, trying to reach for it. It's like in that commercial. That's how they got him in pocket to the bitch. You know, that's man's downfall. I'm not saying, oh, it's not every man's downfall. What I mean by that, it's just those, you know, that know, or those. They can't even say those that know, because even if you know better, you still ain't gonna do better, man. It's just a matter of if it's in you, if you're wired, because you can come across the information and knowing what not to do, but to actually, you know, not do it, you know, it's another thing. You know, it's a wiring sign. Some people are just born to be followers. Some people are born to be puppets. Some people, some dudes are just born to be simps. You know, a gladiator and everything else, but a simp, you know, for the idea or the point of reference of what this means to you. You know. What I'm trying to say, it doesn't make a difference of how bad the chick is to you. You don't allow her to change your narrative. The difference how fly she is, she doesn't change the narrative for you. You know, you change the narrative. Now this is where he came up short. He didn't change the narrative there. You know, he had a conversation where he told the woman he's making these changes, right? His wife, she didn't, you know, abide with him. You know, this is where the scene where he's talking about, yeah, you know, I'm taking this path to, you know, enlightenment, you know, kind of like, well, he says he's a believer in Jesus Christ, you know, the Christianity thing. So he's saying, yeah, okay, I'm going into this. I'm taking this serious, you know. Something is pulled his heartstring to do that. And he's asking her to, you know, can you change your attire, you know, because as I'm, you know, okay, we were over here with this a little bit filthy, we're cleaning up, and I want to have a better presentation. She's like, no, you know, you met me this way and you liked it, so no. Which, you know, they're both right in an aspect. Yeah, you met her like that. You know, okay, you made these changes, but no, I'm not changing. No, she's right, and she has a right, you know. But what he should have done is basically put that paperwork together. You know, we're no longer in business with each other. You know, anything with two heads is a monster. You know, that's where he went wrong in that equation. And you gotta look at what she basically said. This is how you met me, and I met you a certain way, and I don't want you to change from that certain way. I have a problem with you changing that certain way. You're not going to change the narrative. That's what the whole conflict in relationships really is. You know, changing narratives. Even if you might have grown, you know, in that situation, right? They don't want to see that. Growing in any capacity. Pretty much. They're gonna fight against that. Flesh or blood is principalities in the spirit, you know, operating in the weaker member. You know, their, you know, insecurities and their bits of jealousy. You know, everybody's not proud of you when you come up, even the ones that you love. You might think that actually hurts, and it does, but not as bad as you think. It's kind of expected, you know. Prophet is not respected in his own country. You know, Prophet is not respected in his own country because, like, wait a minute, how you and I in the same circumstances, but you manage to make it out of this situation. Like, how dare you? It's the whole crabs in the barrel thing, you know. That's what he's doing right now. He's dealing with the crabs in the barrel. See, what a black man is always dealing with is the crabs in the barrel. Ever dealing with the crabs in the barrel. No matter how much you rise, you know, there's crabs on top of you, trying to push you down. There's crabs on the bottom of you, trying to pull you down, you know. It takes a certain man to become a wise builder. You know, you build through the pain. It's like with Nehemiah, you know, you have all your members with the same mind to do the one thing is to build a wall. You're going to have the naysayers that are going to come by. He's got the naysayers right now. Live with the naysayers. You know, all that really matters is what they're actually saying. If they're saying anything, you know, people are always saying something, but never really saying nothing at the same time. You know, these are the people that can't change the narrative. These are the people that can't change their own narrative in their own life, but try to, you know, control and change other people's narrative. You know, salute to this man. He's a free one. So I never once felt the need to mention it. Don't even mention it, my nigga. It's not sweet. I find it very inspirational. Being a free man. There's nothing more inspirational than being a free man. That means you successfully change your narrative. Kanye is changing the narrative because, you know, those that really have sense basically know who he is, know what he's doing. Universal, what the people are basically saying against him. You know, make sure y'all hit the like button. Drop the money on the countertop. I'm thinking out the box. I sound like the cow pox with the fox. 10 power squats, pull the dreadlocks, and the ability to change the narrative is the ability to basically stand in the pit of fire. You know, what's in the pit of fire? You discover it's like the 3 prophets. You know, that were basically thrown in a fire by King Nebuchadnezzar because he wanted them to worship false idols instead of finding the real gold. You know, and that real gold, what's going on, Golden Child? Speaking of which, right? The real gold is basically found in that pit, and that pit is where you discover your power, your inspiration, as well as your information, and your time and temperance. Time and temperance. Patience. With the information you have to carry it out properly. The AP in the building too. You know. If you want to be a god, if you say you're a god, you want to be called by your name, then you gotta, you know, behave in such a manner. You're a king. You see yourself as a king, you gotta behave in such a manner as that, you know, changing your narrative. Part of, you know, I can say a good part of being, you know, a man, you know, is changing the narrative, you know, the narrative that people feel comfortable with having on you. There's a certain way that everybody likes to feel comfortable with you. You know, your objective should be, everyone should be uncomfortable with you based on the growth and change.
Mink scarf,
you know, the progression, the mobility.
On the J.O. like Puffin' J-Lo. Take that. Range Road, not the
Everything should go with that.
Back, bitch, long
You know,
38 with the
everything should reflect that. You know, but first you got to be uncomfortable to get comfortable. Make other people uncomfortable to get, you know, comfortable. Eventually they'll get comfortable with this way. This is the way that I'm leading. Nah, yeah, okay, nah, that ain't gonna work. You know, you try to school me, right? I'm leaving early, right before the lunch break. You want to talk about narratives. Never said before, man, you do what you're supposed to be doing. And, you know, time always work on your side, man. You walking in that truth. You walk in your truth, man. Be the truth and walk in your truth. You know, in all honesty, right? Let's think about me. I'm honest, but I will withhold when I deem it's necessary. You know, I won't tell you unless you ask. You know, and if you do ask, I'm not always going to tell you. Depending on what I basically can get from your intent. You know, I can read your motives. You know, it's the love when you slither by.
Still with the jokes, money off the books, first shots, murder plots, word to my pops, nigga, snuff, sweet enough.
You know, changing the narratives to the only one that really matters. It's nothing. You know, that's the, you know, the conflict that you come through just with the process of that, because you understand there's a process. You know, remember when Kanye was trying to get on and it was a process for that. You know, a lot of people didn't see that process. They just seen the progression. A lot of times people just see the progression. They don't really see a process. The process is ugly. You know, it's like myrrh. It's bitter, yet sweet.
You ain't gotta go through all that shit.
You know, part of changing the narrative is, you know,
business like whole business. You know what I'm saying?
Be cool, baby.
I can't say in some aspects, right? I can say in all aspects is really dying to your former self and take on the narrative, you know, from your tutelage. Allow that to basically grow, and as well as what you see things, and you work that, right, in a smart way, not the hard way, but the smart way. The narrative will actually be the way it's supposed to be. You know, to me, people are living their life, or not really living their life. They're just living or existing under someone else's narrative instead of existing under their own. You know, you live under your own if it's accurate, it's truthful. You know, millions aren't here yet, but I'm not asking anybody for anything at the same time. And this other thing, you know, with changing the narrative is what you're willing to risk, what you're willing to put on the table. It's kind of like negotiating, right? The art of negotiation, changing the narrative. You know, what are you willing to put on the table? You know, they don't offer themselves. Pour myself out as a love offering. You know, treat it like it's a love offering. I love changing the narrative, as well as I love, depending on, you know, me and my own instincts, you know, and I don't really get with Lady Luck like that. You know, she's a sweet bitch. You know, she's a bitch nonetheless. You know, just gotta know how to talk to her. But it's not about, you know, her. It's really, you know, about your priorities and changing that narrative, you know. And get what you think it belongs to you, you know. Some people will like to call that entitlement. There's a difference between entitlement. I think entitlement is something that, okay, this is what you think you should get, but there's no like legwork behind it. There's no toil behind that, you know. That's entitlement, you know. When there's some type of toil behind it, there's some type of sacrifice, then no, you know.
Does everyone need an audition to get to you?
You ain't gotta go through all that shit.
You create your own
You're gonna choose you.
your own luck,
No business like holding
you know, without the lady.
You know what I'm saying? Be cool, baby. I was just telling my man.
And I'm just, you know, figuratively speaking.
Check me out. I'll fuck with bitch. Check me out.
But the difference is, you know, it's this way. This is the saying I said before about, you know, you waking up, the world on top of you, you on top of the world. You know, what narrative are you living under? Someone else's?
Kiss the money like a sweet lover. 10 seats in the Beamer, peanut butter. Team's gutter, my skin got the.
It's either you're influencing or you're being under the influence. You know, what part of the math you don't really understand. You know, if you ask anybody that's known me for a good amount of years, it tell you its conversation really didn't change. You know, he's grown, but the message is still the same. He's been talking like this. It's the hard part. People, you know, have trouble figuring out, you know.
So I never once felt the need to mention it. Don't even mention it, my nigga. It's nothing. Sweet, nothing. It's nothing.
Changing the narrative.
It's nothing. Sweet, nothing.
You know, those thoughts that people proudly put on you. You know, so they can feel safe. So they don't feel less. So they don't feel weak. So they don't feel stupid. So they don't feel insignificant. You know, what people do for their significance, you know, when it's not really made significant to them first, create a lot of problems. A lot of people just have external pettiness, you know. It's gotta be external shit. You know, things happening outside of you. You know, health is wealth, right? Not paying attention to, you know, your inner wealth, you're gonna be caught up in the external bullshit. Moved by certain things, you know. No one's ever made me feel doubtful. I can tell you that. No one's ever caused me to feel insignificant. I'm talking about whatever they had, or whatever they had that had more of an appeal. It's never really a threat to me. You know, if you don't really have that state of mind, then, you know, you're going to continue to basically have problems. You're going to continue to have people, you know, make up your life for you instead of you making up your own life. Not making it up like on some pretend shit. I'm talking about like making it, you know, not faking it, but actually making it.
You ain't gotta go through all that shit. No business like whole business.
You know, it's the difference between using things and misusing things. A lot of people, where they at because they misuse things. You know how to use things. You use everything. You use a chair, you know, to sit your ass down, right? Use a car to take you where you need to be. Now, when you play Crash Dummies, you're misusing the car, correct?
Out of town power trips, politics, niggas throwing hollow tips.
You misuse money.
Bitch, keep a shot in
Whatever,
the bottom,
you know,
bitch,
things that you were into,
more
you
down,
misuse money. That's why you don't have it.
Kiss the money like
You
a
know.
sweet lover. 10 seats in the Beamer, peanut butter.
The things that you don't have in abundance is based on your misusage of it in the first place. You know, because you utilize that shit to justify something, right? Fight against, you know, succumbing to the narrative that people have put on you, instead of you basically putting the right narrative in, you know, proper place, form, and perspective. You know, you know, people who change their narratives, the people who change the narrative, are usually the most hated. You know, you gotta get to a point that doesn't bother you anymore. It's not about people like you, they don't like you. People have a love-hate relationship with themselves. People don't even know if they even like themselves yet. So why the fuck are you worried about, you know, somebody liking you? You should do things for the sake of honor. You should do things for the sake of, you know, progression, mobility, you know, like something you can pass on to your stars if you have them. Even if they didn't come from you, I have stars. You know, my little cousins, my nieces, my nephews, they're my stars. Still with the jokes, money off the books, first shots. You know, when I have seeds, you know, they'll be my stars. You know. It's the practice of things. You know. Are you living under someone else's narrative? Are you living under your own? You know, you can see it in your posture. You can see it in, you know, your disposition. You can hear it in your voice. You know, that's the way it goes.